HealthTech Investment Conference organized by the Startup Lab. I'm Batu, and I'll be the host today. For those who don't know about us, we are a global entrepreneur community, connect companies with investors through this series of pitch nights and investment conferences. And today we invited 8 amazing health tech companies that are actively raising from Europe and the USA. Each company will do 6 minutes presentation, followed by 7 minutes feedback and Q&A session with the advisory panel members. We have companies focusing on different fields, such as diabetes, digital biomarkers, remote monitoring devices for therapy. So we hope you will enjoy discovering these companies. And we have 5 judges from reputable investment firms with us today. I will ask them to introduce themselves, but first I would like to thank all of them, their support and contribution. We really appreciate this. We have investors from HealthTech Capital, Apex Ventures, called Storm, and Impact Ventures and Rock Health. And yeah, so Anne, could you please introduce yourself? Maybe Anne is kind of having trouble to join. Okay, we can start. Karina, could you please introduce yourself? Okay, now we can unmute yourself.
Now it's working. Sorry, I clicked on it. It said it doesn't work. Hi, everyone. Karina Roth here from Storm Ventures. Just quickly introducing our fund. So we are a micro VC firm investing out of Vienna into Europe and Northern America. So far, we have done over 70 investments. We are a digital health focused VC that actually made us one of the most active digital health investors in Europe in the area of early stage. We do pre-seed and seed, do front end as well as back end, how we call it. So some patient facing solutions as well as digital infrastructure, improving health economics overall. So happy to be here.
Amazing. Thanks so much, Karina. Irene, could you please introduce yourself as well?
Sure. Great to be here, everyone. I'm Irene. I'm a consultant for Rock Health. Rock Health focuses on accelerating healthcare innovation through 3 what we call complementary organizations. One is our kind of iconic venture fund focused on investing in early stage digital health startups. Another is we have a strategy group focused on advising enterprises and late stage companies on healthcare innovation. That's where I sit, while also kind of attending pitch calls and advising the fund simultaneously. And then we also have a nonprofit advancing equity-centered change. And we've been deep in the digital health industry, mostly US focused for over 10 years. So really excited to be here and engage with you all.
Thanks so much, Irene. Great to have you here. Elena, please introduce yourself.
Hi, everyone, and thank you for having me. I'm Elena. I'm with Apex Ventures based out of Vienna. We're an early stage fund, mostly investing in seed and Series A rounds. We have a fully deep tech focus, but we have a very distinct focus on health tech as well, specifically deep tech in clinical applications.
Thanks so much, Elena. And Masha, please introduce yourself. Okay.
Happy to. Good to see you, everyone here. My name is Masha. I'm an associate at Impact Ventures, traditional VC, European early stage impact fund. So we are investing in both people and planet impact. On the people side, quite a strong focus on healthcare. So more or less 1/3 of our existing portfolio is healthcare focus, and we invest from pre-seed to Series A. And yeah, as well, very much looking forward to hearing the pitches today.
Thanks so much, Masha. Great to have you with us here today. Another judge and from HealthTech Capital will join soon, so let's get started with the first pitch. First page is Clear.bio, first company. Pete Hine and Madeline will present the opportunity. By the way, Anne just joined, so maybe let's wait a bit more. If you can introduce herself before we start. Anne, are you here? Can you hear us?
Somehow I was on the team meeting that you sent me.
Yeah, okay. Sorry about that. There was a mistake on that.
Okay, let me shut that down so my camera can work.
Okay, okay then. Let me know when you're ready if you introduce yourself, because all the judges introduce themselves. Now it's your turn actually before we start the first speech.
Yeah, sorry. Somehow you sent me an invite to Microsoft Team. I am Anne de Geest. I run a group called HealthTech Capital, which is based here in San Francisco, Silicon Valley. We are an investor group made out of accredited investor VCs and corporate VCs. We only invest in the US, but I also run another organization called MedStars, which is an advisory company for early stage company that works in Europe and other places, of course, in the US.
Okay, thank you so much, Anne. We are glad to have you here, and sorry about the mistake about the Teams link. Okay, then let's get started with the first speech. By the way, investors in the audience, you can use the chat to interact with the presenters. You can ask questions, also introduce yourself. Okay, as mentioned, first company is Clear.bio. Pete, Hein, and Madeline will present the opportunity. Pete, feel free to share your screen and start your presentation. We have 6 minutes. Then there will be 7 minutes.
Oh, thank you very much. I think you can hear me. The only thing I need to do is be able to share my screen. If you can enable that.
Yep, I did. Just it.
Great. Then I will share my screen and start the presentation. I think you can see my screen right now, right?
Yes, we do.
Great. All right. Good evening, good morning, and good afternoon to everybody. My name is Piet Hein van Dam. I'm together here with Madelon Brakke, co-founder of Clear. We are Clear.bio from Amsterdam. We reverse diabetes 2 by a special method which is called precision nutrition. We have been reimbursed in the Netherlands as a clinical treatment, and we are expanding abroad. We've treated over 5,000 people so far, and we're raising at the moment in preparation of a Series A next year. Today, I'm going to tell you what this is all about. On laboratory scale, we know how to make people 200 years old. On population level, the average life expectancy in the US is decreasing. So when N is 1, we know what to do, but when N is 350 million, something happens. And what happens is something I show in this picture. In most places, a Coke is cheaper than a bottle of water. This was a real picture from Canada airport. Actually, the Cokes are for free, and the bottle of water is $3.99. So there are all nice technologies around, and what we want to do is make sure that we use these technologies to help people make better food decisions, informed decisions about their diet. Spotify tells you what to listen to, Netflix tells you what to watch, but nobody tells you what to eat. This is diabetes 2. It's the fastest growing chronic disease with more than 1 billion patients by 2050. And this is how we treat it. The prescription rate of metformin is worldwide above 70%. So it's a lifestyle disease. You got it at home if you want, but we treat it with medication, which is actually a downward spiral. After metformin comes insulin. After insulin comes numbness in your fingers, your toes, your quality of life decreases, and your lifespan decreases as well. I have to introduce you to a famous Dutchman. This is Raymond van Barneveld. He is a 5-time world champion darts. He got diagnosed diabetes 2 10 years ago. He did exactly what his doctor said. He took the metformin, and 5 years later had to quit his career. He didn't have any feelings in his fingers anymore, and his eyesight decreases that he couldn't throw a dart anymore. His management approached us a few years ago, and we got him back on track. So he's competing again now in the World Championships. So how are we doing that? The first principle that you have to agree with me is the following: your response to food is personal. This was established beyond doubt in 2015 by the Weizmann Institute. Every person reacts differently to foods. There is not one general diet good for everybody. And what is the technology that's now around is real-time glucometry. So you can actually measure your response to food. And very basically, it's a schematic in this picture. The man eats a banana and he gets a bad response. There's too big of a peak, which if you do that for 10 to 20 years, you have diabetes 2. The lady in this picture took the same banana, but she's good on it. There's a more flat response. So this is the principle of real-time glucometry, and that's the technology that we use. So what are we offering? We're offering a package which contains a sensor, a real-time sensor, a smart app who calculates all kinds of things for you, and a real dietitian. So there's a lot of human interaction. We have a fourth element, which is a portal for caregivers to make sure that they can watch over the shoulder of their patients if they are actually improving. Because the whole idea is that you improve your glucose levels. They decrease over time because you eat better. This is how the app looks like. It real-time ingests glucose data. That means that participants are really able to see what the lunch that you just had does in your own body. You log your foods. That can be done with a barcode scanner, that can be done with pre-populated lists, etc. And we calculate the food score. If you score 100, it's great. If you score 0, it's not too great. And if you score 65, we don't recommend it. So real time, this is what's happening. There's also this dietitian helping you out for any question you may have. And you can do everything at home. You don't need to go to a clinic. It's self-starting. You can start whenever you like and as often as you like. At the end of the week, you get these reports back where it works like Spotify playlist, but then we call them meal lists. So you populate your playlist or meal list with the meals that are good for you, and you eliminate from your diet the ones that are not good. And it could be as simple as a banana or a sushi. People make lists of their favorite snacks, their favorite breakfast. They have special diets when they exercise, etc., etc. This is how it works. So what are we offering? We're offering a 3-month treatment. And the 3-month treatment is depicted here. It's schematically, but these are data from a real patient. So the patient starts 2 weeks with the sensor. There's, as you can see, the blood sugar levels are quite high. In these 2 weeks, we work to find the diet that is best for this particular patient. Then there is a 2-month period in which you don't wear the sensor. So you don't have to log your foods all the time because you have your meal list now. The only thing you have to do is stick to them. And that's quite difficult. That can be quite difficult. That's why the dietitian is there to help you implement it. And after these 2 months, you go back with your sensor to prove that you actually improved your situation. So these last 2 weeks are meant as a proof for your doctor or your GP that you actually lowered your blood sugar levels. On average, over all these 5,000 patients, we've achieved a HbA1c reduction. This is for the experts, the HbA1c reduction of 1.1%. That sounds a bit low, but you're diagnosed diabetes 2 if you have higher than 6.5%. So from that 6.5, we detract 1.1. About 25% of the patients gets fully out of the risk zone after these 3 months. So he or she is no longer a patient. 50% can reduce their medication. Meanwhile,
Pete, thanks so much. I have to interrupt you. Their time is up, but I'm sure you will have a chance to explain the presentation more during the Q&A session.
yes.
Thank you, Pete.
Thank you very much for your attention.
Thank you, Pete. Elena, would you like to start? Do you have any question or comment? You can now. You can unmute yourself.
Yeah, because I was blocked for a while. Sorry. Yeah, so this is a great presentation. I truly believe that what you're doing is right. The issue is a business model. So you assume you're using a CGM from Abbott or Dexcom? You're not making your own continuous glucose monitor?
That is indeed a good assumption. We buy the hardware that's best available in the market. So at the moment, these are several types of sensors, including the CGM from.
Yeah, and are you aware that in the US for sure there is company doing exactly what you're doing at half your price? Because I saw in your slides, I looked at the slide ahead of time, you're going to be charging like $400 to $500 a month, if I remember, for the per 2 weeks. You know, so people are able to basically buy it on pharmacy here for $100, and then there is apps that you can basically add to that. So how you compete against that?
Well, I'm always interested to hear about which company you're talking about. In our case, we charge 300 to 400 euros for the total treatment. And
for the 2 months?
No, yeah, the total treatment is 3 months, indeed.
And the CGM is only 2 weeks?
Yes, we only need a 2-week CGM because it gives you so much data that we can actually help these people reduce their HbA1c, and you don't need a sensor every week. So the total treatment costs 300 to 400 euros for 3 months.
And was your assumption in the US because that the payers would pay for this, or the employers? Who is the person paying for this?
The insurers.
Have you had any conversation with them? Is there any existing codes that you can use?
Yes, we have. We didn't have conversation in the US yet, but we do have a lot of conversation in Europe and also in Brazil.
Yeah.
With
I hate to say, but Europe is very better for the payment system than the US, which is broken different systems. So don't assume that if the Netherlands, which is much more centralized as far as the decision process, is paying for this, which they should, that it's going to be the case here.
That's why we start in the Netherlands. We make sure we prove it here.
Yeah. If you look at Livongo and Omada Health,
yeah, for sure.
You see them as direct competitors?
Yes.
And why would you be better? Because they're already entrenched?
Well, we just did a head-to-head to Omada. We're faster, we're better, and we're cheaper than than the results that they claim in the market.
Okay.
I can share with you those results.
I'm going to let Sabine and Karina ask questions.
Yeah. Thank you, Anne. Karina, would you like to add something?
Thank you very much for the pitch. Also, super important topic you're tackling. I have a bit. If first you could maybe quickly just also tell a bit about the team. So I'm just interested, who is it that is building it? And my second question was like, how do you see the market? You were showing like the uptake of diabetes type 2 with the commercialization of GLP-1 and Ozempic having the potential to maybe decline that target group? Yeah,
that's a good question. So the team, we are currently with 12 people. I think the main pillars are, of course, science. That's represented by Madelon in this call present. We have a very strong CTO who actually built the app from scratch. We have a strong department on delivery. That's the operations department with all our dietitians. We are making a product. You don't go to the doctor when you work with us. Actually, you do your shopping when you have our app. So we have a lot of people on product and on UX. Of course, I'm forgetting somebody, but in general, this is the profile of our team. And Karina, your second question about the market. Of course, there are very strong medication out there. The thing with this medication is it's very expensive, even more expensive than our treatment. And we know that it works for a year or two. So we think that the final solution will be co-medication. So helping these people to reduce weight with some medication, but also supported by lifestyle change. So that's not yet the treatment that we have in the market, but we think that we will get there in a year or two. So I don't see a real threat on the market size. It's huge.
Thank you, Pete. Yeah, Masha, any question or comment?
Yeah, also two questions. So first of all, thank you very much for the pitch. First one being, is there a misalignment between the effectiveness of your product and the business model in terms of if it's too good, then the customer actually churns? And the second question would be, you mentioned that you also do have real dietitians on board, which I believe obviously are huge in terms of value proposition for the user. Are those dietitians in-house? How can you guarantee the quality, and how is it scalable?
Great question.
Pete, actually, you have a minute to answer this. So
a minute, wow. Okay, yes, there is a misalignment, because if we make people better, they don't use our product, but there is a proposition coming up that they can do their shoppings with our app, so they remain working with us. Yes, dietitians are in-house, we train them, and we make them scalable because we replace them on the longer term with intelligence in the app. We will never get rid of the dietitian fully, but we will bring it back because the app will take over medical interventions, and that makes it scalable. Thank you, Batu, for being so strict.
Yeah, absolutely. Thanks so much, Pete. Great presentation, great answer. Now we can move to the second page. Thank you, Pete, again. And the next company is BeCareLink. Alan Gilbert will present the opportunity. Alan, feel free to share your screen and start the presentation.
Can you see my screen?
Yes. Before we start, by the way, Pete, actually, we have quite a lot of questions in the chat, so you can answer, all those questions on the chat. Okay.
Meanwhile, yes, I will. Thank you very much.
Turn to you, Alan. Stage is yours. We can start now.
Hello, my name is Alan Gilbert. I'm the Chief Commercial Officer of BeCareLink. BeCareLink was started from a tragic medical error that happened to the founder. He and his wife owned a breast imaging center. She was a breast imaging radiologist diagnosing breast cancer every day. And she actually got breast cancer herself and died from a tragic medical error. They're trying to solve the issue of not having enough information to provide to the doctor. So her sister is a practicing neurologist focusing on MS. The founder wanted to start with oncology to not have this happen to other people, what happened to his wife. His sister-in-law is a practicing neurologist, said oncology is too large. Why don't we start with something that I know, which is neurology? And we did the opposite of what most companies do, which is that we, instead of building software in a vacuum and bringing it out to doctors and saying, what do you think? We did the opposite and went to the doctors and said, what's ineffective in your practice? And they said, what's ineffective is we do an hour to an hour and a half long test to track how patients are progressing on their disease and multiple sclerosis. We'd rather just have patients do the test at home in their living room, and then you score that with AI and machine learning and provide that score to us so we can decide what to do on the patients. And that's how we created BeCareLink. The B in BeCareLink is for Beth. What we're trying to solve is that there's too many patients that are not being seen by a neurologist. So about 75% of patients not being seen by a neurologist, they're being seen by a nurse practitioner, other kind of clinicians, but not really seen by a neurologist. That's what we're trying to address. So we've created an app, as we mentioned, that patients can do at home in the privacy of their living room. Started with multiple sclerosis. We have about almost 5,000 users now. We're now moving on to Alzheimer's, ALS, myasthenia gravis, also moving on to traumatic brain injury and Parkinson's. In addition to having apps, we also have devices for those that correlate with those apps, pulmonary neuromuscular for ALS and grip strength and foot strength. This is just an example of the MS test that's done in the doctor's office. It takes 90 minutes. Patients can do it at home. The sizes of these markets. We have a class 1 for their MS. We're about to get a class 2 license. We've done 2 clinical trials. We did a post-marketing study with Biogen to test out what they call the feel-good effect. And we're hopefully about to do a large class action lawsuit to track about 100,000 patients that have been exposed that have a possibility of getting Parkinson's disease. So we hope to be able to track almost 100,000 patients as part of this class action lawsuit. We've currently raised about $5 million to date. Our current raise is about $5.5 million. We've raised about 2.5 of that $5.5 million, and we have matching commitment from investors up to about 1.5. These are some of the uses of capital that we would use, again, to expand the MS app, get into Alzheimer's, get into traumatic brain injury, get into ALS, all these different conditions. Our team is made up of data scientists, AI experts, and then key opinion leaders in our different areas, starting with MS. And as we get into Alzheimer's, we'll have key opinion leaders in those, et cetera. Looking at acquisition targets from pharmas, from payers, and from private equity. Again, with pharma as an example, we believe because we are taking gold standard testing methodologies, and as we work with Biogen, we're tracking how patients are doing in their disease, we can help as many pharmas out there that have an app, that have a medication for multiple sclerosis, for example. And that's BeCareLink.
Thanks so much, Alan. Great presentation. Yeah, Karina, would you like to start? Then we can continue with Elena and Irene. You can now unmute yourself.
Thank you very much. You understand the sign language now. So thank you very much for the pitch. Could you please elaborate a bit more, who is paying how much for your solution, and do you have commercial traction already?
We don't, we're pre-revenue, we don't have commercial traction yet. Again, we have about 5,000 users on the platform, and we hope to have this class action lawsuit starting early next year, which will be in the multi-million dollars.
And then going forward, how much?
Or we hope to have more pharmas that will pay a per member per month, and then hope to get the health plans to put it on formulary.
Okay.
So we're trying to do a top-down and bottom-up approach, get as many patients as possible from the bottom, and get pushed down from the pharma and the payers from the top. It's very hard to get doctors to change the way that they're practicing. So we're not doing that from the middle. We're trying top and bottom.
Okay. Thanks.
Thanks, Karina. Elena, any question or comment?
Hi, Alan. Thank you for your presentation. How do you reach the patients themselves? Is this a prescribed app or is it direct to consumer?
No, patients are able to download themselves on the Apple and Android App Store right now. So they can download it themselves. We're marketing, so we're getting press releases and blogs and Instagrams and Facebooks to have patients know about it. And again, if we're working with pharmas, then they'll tell patients about it.
So typically a patient wouldn't go to a specialist until they start seeing symptoms, but that's exactly the market segment that you're trying to capture. How would you convince patients to use the app before they see symptoms in themselves and have a reason to
this week or next week? We're launching a neuro app, a general neuro app, which is the exact test that would be done in the doctor's office. And we're targeting that at patients, for example, that might have a family history of Alzheimer's, and a word about that. So what we're going to show them is how many standard deviations away they are from the core, to be able to track their conditions, and then they're able to take that information and provide that to a neurologist. So that's currently available on the Android App Store, and it should be available on the Apple App Store in the next little while. We just got approved, so that's coming very quickly.
Okay, thank you, Alan. Irene, please jump in.
Absolutely. Thanks, Alan. One question, I think the life sciences channel you have is interesting and makes a lot of sense. I want to confirm, are you going after both the research use case for life science and kind of a disease companion or treatment companion for on-market therapies? Because I know a lot of life sciences companies are looking at not just using digital tools in clinical research, but bringing those into the actual commercialization of treatment.
We believe, like the last presenter with measuring your diabetes, we believe we can be either digital therapeutic or an enhancement to an existing digital therapeutic. The neurologists tell us the more the patients manage their condition, they can lower hospitalizations and lower flare-ups of conditions. So we have patients that are, of the 5,000 that are on our platform right now, some are using it weekly, some are using it quarterly, some are using it monthly. And we actually did an internal clinical trial ourselves. We tracked with about 100 patients. We assigned them to super users and very low users. And we believe it's going to show that you're going to have an impact and lowering the scores, either having patients stabilize their disease or improve their disease by using the app more often, just like I try to do the crossword puzzle every day to help my neuroplasticity. That's what we believe we're going to show in our own internal clinical trial.
Yep, absolutely. I saw it today. Biogen is disbanding their digital health team, so maybe going after some of their pharma competitors is a good idea if they're kind of divesting from that area too.
Yeah, okay. Thank you, Irene. We heard actually about and took the ad from Alan or Irene, or we will continue with Anne.
Yeah, I mean, there are you just using existing proven neuro scales and digitizing them, which there's a lot of competition for, especially with pharma? Or do you have anything that's unique? Like there are people, for example, developing technology using voice and video and all of that things for this neurodegeneration, which are being used right now by pharma for clinical trials, you know, and so how do you differentiate yourself with what's out there?
We're getting patents because no one else is taking the entirety of these gold standard testing methodology for Alzheimer's or MS, taking the entire testing methodology and replicating it in the app. We're getting the patents and doing the clinical trials because no one else is doing it that way. So we're bringing in, there's some components for the eye that we're bringing in from other companies. So we're taking other components that are out there, but no one else is doing it this way, which is why we believe we can go to every company, like every app. Roche has an app called Floodlight for their MS app, but they only have 2 of the 10 tests that we do for multiple sclerosis. So we believe we can go back to Roche and Floodlight and say, we'll private label or white label our full test for you to be able to have them keep their patients on the Roche product, just like we can go to other companies. So
and have you shown that all those tests that you have digitized can be self-administered by the patient at home without any help?
That's all we're doing, is having the patient download the app and do the test themselves unattended. That's what we've done clinical trials on. That's our entire focus.
Yeah, thank you, Anne. So looking at the judges, Masha or Karina, do you have any to that? Or yeah, okay.
Do you already have any results in terms of specificity and sensitivity?
We do. We have clinical trial results, and we just sent out a clinical trial document that we can share. I think it's on our website. So we are able to show results. And then again, this internal trial of this 100 patients, we're composing the results right now. We should have that out quickly as well.
And compared to the gold standard, how are you performing?
We're better than clinicians. So 2 clinicians looking at the same patient's results have about a 2% difference, and we have about a 1% difference. So we're not saying we're better than doctors. We're just saying the more we do the AI, the closer we're getting. So on the R squared. Yeah.
Thank you, Masha. And I see there is a question from the audience as well. Ishan, sorry about that, keep you waiting because I prioritized the judges for the question, but feel to ask your question. We don't have the time, but you can maybe give a small feedback and ask your question by using chat.
Okay, thanks. Hey, Alan, Ishan here from HealthWorks. I was wondering, is the business model really around early ID or is it symptom tracking? It sounds more like the latter. And if so, why not then essentially match providers and pharma? Because I don't yet see why a payer would acquire it. HealthWorks is backed by Blue Cross Blue Shield.
So the first part of it for the general neuro exam, it's catching it early. For the MS and other ones, it's disease progression. So it's both.
Okay. Yeah. Thank you, Alan. Actually, time is up right now. We can continue chat using chat, or I don't know, privately. I will prefer.
Thank you very much for your time.
Thank you, Alan. Great presentation. Okay, let's move to the next page. The next company is VitaScale. Ulrich, CEO of the company, will do the presentation. Ulrich, please share your screen and start the presentation. We can't hear you now, Ulrich.
No, it works.
Okay, now we can hear you. Yes.
See the screen as well? Very good.
Yes.
So thank you very much for giving us the opportunity to present, and I'm very sorry, but the camera is not working for whatever reason today, so I cannot show up in person, but at least I can speak. So do you actually know that it's not moving here? How do you do this? Oh, here we go. Do you actually know that 4 billion people cannot obtain essential health serving, including diagnostics? and 12 million adults are misdiagnosed every year, and even worse, 1 out of 3 misdiagnosis results in fatal injuries or death. At the end, hundreds of billions of dollars are wasted due to misdiagnosis every year. Therefore, we believe it's time to change this by applying non-invasive and easy-to-use diagnostic methods. In fact, non-invasive diagnostic is a gold mine. For example, by analyzing our breath, we all breathe around about 20,000 times a day. Each single breath contains 3,000 volatile organic components, so an incredible pool for health analysis. In addition, we swallow around about 3,000 times a day, and each single swallow contains 90 biomarkers. So again, incredible pool for health analysis. We believe that non-invasive is the new blood to determine vital health indications such as diabetes, nutrition intolerances, stress level, alcohol, metabolism speed, and lung function, as well as mineral and vitamin status. So what if we told you that we developed a pocket-sized device being able to perform accurate analysis of vital health indication with your breath and or saliva anytime and anywhere? In order to do so, we developed actually various devices. Our precise and proprietary sensor technology in combination with our user-friendly device and AI-driven smart algorithm, we can perform precise and affordable diagnostic for all. Our high-level AI approach looks like this. We capture data from external apps and third-party devices such as heart rate, GPS, environmental data, blood data, and or healthcare data. We add all proprietary data from the breath and saliva analysis and generate at the end a comprehensive analysis for relevant health metrics such as lung performance, metabolism, speed and level, stress level, diabetes, and nutrition, and at the end, alcohol level as well if required. With this innovative technology, we are intending to solve global health issues such as mentioned before, 422 million people are suffering from diabetes, 455 are suffering from chronic respiratory diseases, 20% of the global population experiences food intolerances or nutrition intolerances, 2 billion people are suffering from deficiencies in essential minerals and vitamins, and 88,000 people are dying due to abuse of alcohol. Our business model looks like this. It's a B2B2C model, whereas we are focused on B2B only. Our B2B customer will be able to sell B2C solution to their customers and patients. Our main markets are lifestyle, healthcare, and automotive. For the lifestyle market, for example, customers are gyms, coaches, sport equipment, manufacturer, retailer. In the health space, we are looking for B2B customer like hospitals, physicians, insurance companies, and in the automotive field, we are talking to customers like Tier 1 and OEMs. The technology has been proven a couple of times from an accuracy as well as usability point of view. In addition, we are fortunate to be awarded a couple of times from international juries in the field of health application. If you compare our solution to potential competitors, we can see that we are offering the only technology covering a wide range of various health indications. In addition, the wide range enables us to improve the accuracy of our analysis since there are a lot of dependencies and correlation. The market we are approaching is quite huge. As you probably all know, the health market, for example, is about 5 trillion last year, and it's expected to grow by around about 11% for the next 10 years. The global digital market on the other side is 263 million, and it's expected to grow on a CAGR level by 30%. Along our go-to-market strategy, we are expecting the first significant revenue next year, and in about 6 years, revenues of 2 million. From an EBIT, 200 billion from an EBIT point of view, we're expecting 6 years from now, 48 million on EBIT. In order to ramp up fast, and especially in order to add new function, To our existing portfolio, we need 2 million of invest for in particular core management, new stuff, new handheld functions, production, marketing, and in particular certification of MDR and FDA. We are quite experienced team of international experience management experts in all relevant fields that are required to start and ramp up a company like ours. Furthermore, we are assisted by a very competent team of industrial and scientific partner. And finally, I would like to invite you to become a part of our movement of forging a healthier world through cutting-edge breath, saliva-based prevention and diagnostic. Thank you very much.
Amazing. Thank you, Ulrich. Great timing. Karina, would you like to start, or Masha? Feel free to start. Let's start with Masha then. You can now unmute yourself. Yeah, you can now.
Karina already gets so good in this. Thank you so much for the pitch. So you mentioned a ton of different use cases and a ton of different customer groups. Where will you start and where do you focus?
Actually, we have a stepped approach. It's a very good question. We start with the lifestyle market right now, where we're offering system to the German-speaking countries in the first place, and then going to the European countries, finally US as well. Then in 2 to 3 years from now, we are going to introduce product to the medical healthcare market, and probably in 4 years from now to the automotive market.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Thank you, Masha. Karina?
Thank you very much. I have a continuing question to the first one. So for the lifestyle market, can you maybe explain quickly the user journey? So I didn't understand yet. You said you mentioned B2B distribution channels, but like, how do I get to your solution? Am I feeling symptoms or not? Am I just curious? And then at the end of the user journey, like once I used your app and I have the results, like what do I then do with the data?
Very, very good question. So I am taking one particular use case, which is very, very likely, since a lot of people are suffering from that, like overweight people. Our client is probably a rather personal coach, nutritional expert, or physician, and he's using the system. The customer is taking one deep breath, and then the coach or physician and so on knows the resting metabolism rate, he knows the fat burn rate, he knows in that case the lung function as well. And based on those data, we can then generate an individualized nutrition plan, which is a built-in functionality in our app, guiding the customer then for the next couple of weeks in order to achieve what the customer wants to achieve, losing weight in that case. And those data are getting then updated, assisted by AI as well, by applying the next test and the next test, because metabolism is not like body size that is changing from day to day and really depending on the actions taking place. So that is basically continuous progress and monitoring over time. The customer itself is having the opportunity to use then the app at home and changing meals as required, and the meals are getting then adapted in order to being tailored to the target, like losing weight.
Great. Thank you, Ulrich. Anne, please.
Yeah. So what is unique in your technology? I mean, first, I'd like to say you come across like you're boiling the medical ocean, and that's always very dangerous. I will advise you pick one specific application to validate your technology. But what is unique in your technology that will make you better that's already on the market?
Yeah, we are the first one being able to capture breath in an open environment. All the other systems require definitely some kind of mask and tubes. That is one of our main USPs.
So there is no mask and tightness
around
the mask.
And everything needed. We do have application where you have to breathe in a system as well. But our main USP is that you can capture breath in an open environment without wearing any masks or tubes.
So is this like a chemical sensor, electrolyte? I mean, what exactly
is it? It's a variety, actually. It's a good question. And it's a variety of sensors. We're not just using one sensor, because we believe you need a lot of signals in order to capture breath and to understand breath. So we have a differential pressure sensor, we have electrochemical sensor, we have a light-based sensor. So we have a variety of sensor. A proportion of them are developed by ourselves, especially the oxygen sensor, for example, because there's nothing on the market then that you can use for real-time diagnostic.
And are these reusables? I'm assuming that
Yes.
something you use every day. Is that what you're trying to do?
That lasts for at least 2 years. It's calibrated in air and has no drift, almost no drift.
And I'm noticing nobody on your team has medical device experience there as far as regulatory and going to market.
Of course, we have some very experienced experts in our team assisting us from a medical grade and a certification point of view, as well as from a medical point of view, like cardiologist and pulmonologist.
Okay.
Well, thank you. And Irene, please go ahead.
Thank you. One question is, are you competing more as a sensor or a collection of sensors, or as an API platform that can bring in other sensors? Because those are somewhat different markets, and some companies have gone after both, but only after having mastered one.
I may try to answer the question. I'm not quite sure whether I got it correctly. We are selling a system that is coming with an app, and that is basically what we sell to B2B customer. So it's not just a software platform we are selling, it's basically a device in combination with an app. The app is, of course, in the user interface and is having all the smart algorithm implemented, and the device is basically to capturing all the sensor and breath relevant and saliva relevant data.
Maybe I can help rephrase the question there. Are you planning to sell this to people who already have clinical application, digital therapeutic, and you're one of the tools they use? Or are you planning to develop all the infrastructure, the call centers, the coaches, and everything else?
No. Yeah, that's very good. I'm sorry. Yes. Now I got the question. Thank you very much. No, we're going to sell it to people who are being experienced. So we look more for corporates being able to sell this.
Got it.
Thank you, Irene. And Elena, do you have any comments on that?
I just have one comment. I have seen a startup called Boyd Sense, several pitch presentations before, and they also test volatile organic compounds through breath. So I would suggest you look into that. The other thing is, again, with the rest of the panel, I agree you should start with a very narrow focus and then enter other, go to other go-to-market strategies. So honestly, I would do the opposite of what you have planned and go to automotive first, then health, then to lifestyle customers.
Well, we do this basically in parallel, the automotive, because this is a huge company we're working with called Continental, and that is an individual approach. It's alcohol detection, and the system is already pretty much ready for serial production. You're certainly right. There's a different alternative product line we're offering in that case. In that case, we are even not manufacturing anything. We are not selling any hardware. In that case, we are just selling software license. When it comes to hardware in combination with an app, we are approaching right now on a narrow scope this German-speaking countries, in particular functionalities like metabolism speed, fat burn rate, and lung function. That's basically what we're offering right now. So it's not all of it, as I've shown before. I just would like to open the innovation field like that. This technology enables us to do a lot of functions within the next years.
Yeah, thanks so much, Ulrich. Thumbs up. Great presentation, great answer. And a good evening.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. Okay, let's move to the next pitch. The next company is Tada Group. Katarina, CEO and co-founder of the company, will do the presentation. Katarina, please share your screen and start the presentation.
Yes, perfect. So hello. I assume that none of you actually like to be stuck by a needle. Neither do I, but sometimes it's necessary, isn't it? For instance, when you're at a hospital and need access to fluid or medicine, and this is called IV therapy. It's the most common invasive procedure in healthcare. It's 16 billion IV lines are used every year and 1.5 billion IV catheters. However, the failure rate is 40%. One of the reasons being that there are forces on the tube. And these have enormous consequences, both concerning safety, sustainability, and economic. So if there are forces on the tube, if they're a little bit, they the catheter might still stick, whereas if it's a lot, it might be totally ripped out. And there is a risk for injury, there is a risk for increased risk of infection, as well as, in rare cases, death. Whereas if the patient is infectious with COVID or any blood diseases, and the nurse has to take care of the wound afterwards, there is a toxic exposure. But there is also a toxic exposure risk if there is chemo, for instance, in the bag, and it's ripped out and you spill it on the floor. In these cases, you have to take, after accidents, you have to clean everything away, take the tube, the content of the tube, and throw it away due to risk of contamination. And this adds up to 23,000 ton plastic waste in Europe and US alone. All this cost added with nursing time adds up to 72 billion euros in unnecessary healthcare consumption. And I say unnecessary because there is a solution, there is ReLink. When the problem is that something breaks, the standard solution is to make it stronger. We did the opposite. We made it quicker and smarter. So our double valves connector splits into two parts when there are forces on the tube. Double valves keep blood and medicine from spilling, and you can easily use the protocols at the hospital to clean and reconnect to rapidly reinstate therapy. So instead of it taking 30 minutes that it does today, we have revolutionized the process to only take three minutes. And to the left in this diagram, you see state of the market today, where they just use different devices to secure the catheter stronger to the patient. But eventually, regardless if you have metal hooks or you even have sewn it onto the patient, one force will be too heavy. So what we have done is to created the sector to the right, where we have also reducing the consequences. So when you have our breakaway connector, it takes away the force and you don't have the dislodgement, etc. There are two American startup competitors that are addressing it as we are with a weak link. Our unique feature is that ours is reconnectable, meaning that we save more time for the nurses. There are two key drivers for our product, and it's the scale, 16 billion IV lines, but it's also chronic shortage of nursing staff, beds, medicine, you name it. This is one example of the of nursing capacity per capita. The world average lies below 4 per 1,000 people. UK, being on the left to this sector, has twice that number. Still, there are 12% of the nursing positions in the UK unfilled. And Ireland, for instance, and US are even better than the UK in number of nurses, but there are problems there as well. So even when the most well-resourced healthcare systems in the world are struggling, what we have done is, since we met, the co-founders team and I met during Clinical Innovation Fellowship, following the BIOS Design Stanford process. I'm an engineer from the beginning, added with an MBA, worked with business and product development my entire life. Rebecca has a PhD in engineering sciences. Christopher is a medical doctor specializing in anesthesiology. And then we added an amazing team with doctors and top-tier consultants. So what we've done to reduce the risk and improve market access over the years is, for instance, that our first patents is approved in a lot of countries. We have additional patents approved as well as in the pipeline. We have regulatory approval in Europe with the CE mark. We are submitting for FDA approval within a few months. We have the the ISO certificate. And we have started direct sales to hospitals. We have 5 clinical trials this year, and it's going really, really well. Our route to market is to first do some key hospitals and then partner up with global medtech and regional sellers. That goes for both revenue stream animal care as well as humans. The key driver here is also why we are looking into scaling, because we need to cut down the cost. It's a piece of plastic that we need to scale to get the costs down, which will also drive the revenue up. And it's also due to the key drivers of 16 billion IV lines, the scale, and the chronic shortage. With these, we are looking into the strategic partnership with having 70 million ReLink sold by 2028. For next year, we have an intent of an order for 1 million, and the revenue by 2028, if when this is cut, it's 150 million euros. We are raising 6.5 million euros to reduce the manufacturing cost, do commercial expansion, as well as new product development. Thank you.
Thanks so much, Katarina, for your presentation. Elena, would you like to start?
Thank you, Katarina. I believe that I have seen you before at a different conference, so great to see you again. I very much like this product. It's simple, it's quite effective, and I see a great demand or a potential demand for it. My question is, what have been your limitations so far? Is it the price, and what's the feedback from your customers or potential customers?
We just, that's like half year ago that we sent the first boxes out. The feedback so far is great. We have no complaint whatsoever. So it's on more than 120 patients, and it is looking really good. Whereas you have to put this into cavities in plastic production, there is some lead time of those things. We need to invest in tooling to cut the cost for production, basically. The demand, all the products that we can produce this year are already earmarked for samples for B2B as well as the clinical trials.
So my question is the price to the customer a limitation, or is it rather the cost of production to you that's a limitation to scale?
It's a product that you need to scale to cut the price down, and you can cut it to less than €1. Whereas for that, you need to scale production, and that will cost. We have one quote for €4 million to scale production, but then the price really cuts down.
Yeah.
So it's like if you compare it to making tin soldiers one by one, or you do a Lego production and spit out millions. So it's really a scale. The scaling, yes. It's nothing else. The product design is made to scale because it's 16 billion tubes we want to basically hit the global market. Yes. But thank you for the question. Nice seeing you two again.
I have two questions. A lot of the disconnect and connect, there's a whole market right now in the US with a couple of companies there to disinfect the end of the male and the female side. Do they work with your device there, or how do you make sure that the end of the connector stay disinfected? And then the second question, as you know, in the US, people do a lot of bundling. So you have a lot of these big players there who bundle all their things like that. And when you go to a hospital, they're going to ask you the ROI. So what's the value proposition? I assume you're a premium product. How do you save them money? And have you validated that you save the hospital money if you charge 2 or 3 times the price of the cheap thing?
Thank you for the questions. Yes, we are in the US on animals so far. So we just, that was like a few months ago, and we have a very good connection to the hospital where we are at, or the vet place, and they are following the instructions. A bundling kit is one of the key reasons why business to business would want to work with us, because this is a new disruptive product. So they could basically have a delta price increase on their kit and bundle, as well as target a larger volume and be able to enter into new areas when it comes to IV and tubes. And for instance, Scrub the Hub, or how they clean the smart side, this would be like 2 needle-free connectors that you push together, and making sure that none of the tube are actually open, because at the moment, if part of the tubes could be open when changing, etc., and it's very difficult to clean inside the tube. It's a lot easier to clean outside our connectors. And we have calculations on how much the hospital win if it's 500 times beds, etc. Whereas we have focused a lot on talking to business.
What's the key assumption? Maybe sorry to interrupt. Is that you accidentally disconnect, and then there's an extra cost and complication, which is nursing time? What's the key assumption for the hospital to save money with you?
Nursing time being one large bit, but the disconnect in one of our studies is 20%. In certain wards, it might be 30 and 40%. Orthopedics, elderly, children, but it could happen to anybody. But there is a very high number and the time that it takes to reconnect.
Yeah, thank you, Katarina. Thank you, Anne. Masha, would you like to continue?
Yeah, actually, a follow-up question on the ROI. So how do your unit costs compare to traditional IV lines at the moment, and how is this going to change when you're bringing manufacturing costs down?
Well, thank you for bringing the manufacturing cost down. The line will, depending on how they are priced, of course, by if someone kits them together. But we are at the moment, we're adding it as a component, and then it would be an added cost. If we go one step further and say that we will supply the chain and exchange it, so no open lines are open, then we would be able to exclude other products and deliver it to a lower, well, not a lower cost, but it would be less. So, yeah. But that would be further down the line. Initially, we will add it as a component. Thank you for the question.
Thank you, Masha. Karina or Irene, anything to add? Any comment?
Yeah, just a very quick one. So you mentioned the failure rate of the traditional IV lines is 40%. Do you already have numbers for your solution? On how much are you bringing it down, or what are you targeting?
Yes, we are having a study at the moment, but we can't go out with it. There is a professor and someone else wanting to do an article. It looks very good, but we can't. I can't. I'm not allowed to say it until we finalized it. One more thing, though, Karina, since you're in digital health, we are looking for collaboration partners when it comes to bringing care home. Because as you can picture, if 90% of patients admitted to hospital will receive IV and it's not safe, if you want to have patients taken care of at home, those figures are going to look worse. And we have an added benefit that one could add. It's one of the ideas in our pipeline that you could actually add it to the home. So we want to have a sensor, be able to put it at home, but then we need channels to people. Well, if they have a device already, that we can use one of their free channels, so you contact home provider. So it could be then an added digital solution to it.
Great.
Thanks.
Thanks so much, Katarina. Thumbs up. Great presentation. Great answer. Thank you all the judges. Now we can move to the next company. The fifth page is Cosmos Pharmaceutical. Alexander will do the presentation. Alexander, you can start when you're ready.
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you. Give me 1 second to get my slides up. All righty. So thank you for the introduction. As he said, my name is Alexander Colton. I'm the co-founder and CEO of Cosmos, and we offer a medication adherence platform. It is unique in quite a few ways, and I'll get into those later on. But I think the most important thing to note is why I started the company and where our focus is. So I started this company during my time at the College of William & Mary because one of my best friends passed away from a prescription drug overdose. And when I think about medication adherence platforms, and when I join HealthTech investor conferences like this one, and I present my company, the focus is always on neurodegenerative spaces or elderly care. And I don't want to disregard this market in any way. I would just say our focus and the device we built and the platform that we have, our device enabling, has a focus on real-time patient intervention so that we can accurately assess a patient's medication adherence in real time, identify the risk factors that those patients face, and then help them better understand why they're taking their medication, how they can take it so that they experience less symptoms and side effects, and if they need help, provide them a way to access help in a real-time basis to prevent things like panic attacks from happening to college students, or self-harm incidents happening to people dealing with mental health problems, or anybody on the ADHD spectrum potentially starting to abuse their medications for ADHD. These are very real-life examples that I've experienced on a day-to-day basis in my life, working with patients in rehab networks, working with college students in places like Hope and Haven, which are for sexual assault and drug addiction in college. And so I think that was just a message that I wanted to clearly communicate is our beachhead market is on the young adult populations. As we grow and scale this company, we will enter into other departments and hospital systems, such as oncology, cardiovascular, autoimmune is a big one as well. And so getting into that and understanding kind of where we are and what our platform does, we offer a unique product. Our product is called FortisCap, and it seamlessly attaches to prescription bottles across any pharmacy in the United States. The European market does have different types of bottles, and we are currently working through the locking systems and creating attachable bottle caps for clinical research, the European market, and the United States in their differing varying attachments. Our main focus was on the pharmaceutical industry. And then once it attaches, it'll use a fingerprint sensor to open seamlessly for the individual user and secure medication to that patient. And that patient is definitely in the driver's seat in the sense that they can add on additional users to the device so that their mom or dad or significant other or caregiver can access the medicine. And then the device also will track who you are when you take your medicine and an accurate estimate of how many pills come out of the bottle at each dosing event. And that's where I saw the disconnect between elderly care and young adult populations, where we see elderly care really with a focus on consistency. Are they non-adherent or aren't they? That is the question posed to adherence companies when we think of those patient populations. My focus is on dosing quantity. Are you taking what your doctor said you're supposed to take? Or are you taking half of a dose because you experience symptoms and side effects that you haven't disclosed to your doctor yet? Or are you taking 3 or 4 or 5 times as much as you're supposed to take because you like the way your prescription medication makes you feel and don't totally understand the risk factors facing you? So that dosing quantity and dosing time frame combination come together to enable our platform to predict these preventative interventions of when somebody will deal with non-adherence leading to a symptom or side effect or an adverse event that we could prevent from happening. Thinking a little bit more about Cosmos as a company and where we are today, we just are finishing up our first clinical trial and seeing some really positive results. We plan on conducting 2 or 3 more clinical trials starting in the next month or so, working through patient selection and a bunch of different clinical protocols. And then we're seeking a capital raise of $1.25 million at a $10 million valuation to scale up the company and conduct large batch manufacturing to service product orders in 2024. And then when I think about medication as a whole, like I said in the beginning, we have a focus as a mission on young adults. But when we think about elderly care, when we think about cardiovascular, the market for medication non-adherence is roughly $500 billion in healthcare loss per year in the United States. And that expands if we look at the globe. And there's a lot of use cases. And I just want to be clear that we're focused on all these use cases, but we got to learn everything we need to know about one disease state before we go to the next. And as we scale our disease states, our platform will grow and scale to enter different markets like clinical research. And right now we're learning our first disease state with mental health patients, and we should be servicing product orders in Q1 of next year to generate early revenue. And that's where we stand today. So thank you so much for listening, and I'm excited to hear the questions.
Thanks so much, Alexander. Irene, would you like to start?
Sure. This is a really important issue. Thanks for bringing it to light. One thing I want to ask about is the device itself, the cap itself. Can you explain the process of using that cap? The thing I'm asking about is I want to make sure it's not kind of making it harder for patients to access their medication when they need it by adding a device, but the use case is clear and makes a lot of sense.
Yeah, so Irene, let me give you 3 examples because the market is complex and the patient onboarding process has a couple different forms. So if we're looking at clinics, doctor offices, family doctors, pain medicine clinics, and the like, then those clinics are going to have a physician that would onboard the patient, where we would drop off devices at their clinic. We've done this in the past. They'll attach them to prescription bottles, fill those prescriptions, and then onboard the patient during a doctor visit. And that seems like the best streamlined way to do that. Now, if we're talking about hospital systems typically are going to have a hospital outpatient department with a pharmacist. Those pharmacists have been trained on how to use FortisCap in some small way in the current kind of testing we're doing. And we see that as a very viable option to have, the point of distribution of those devices for patients leaving a hospital system at the hospital pharmacy. Now, retail pharmacy is a very, very different story, and probably the story you want to hear from me. Retail pharmacy is difficult because we don't have the clinical validation yet to distribute through McKesson Connect or Cardinal Health and get our devices into places like CVS and Rite Aid. Now we can do trials and pilot programs with regional managers, but I would say that that hurdle is the hurdle we're overcoming by proving out the outcomes over the next 12 to 18 months. And we're going to do them through hospital systems and clinics. And once we get that clinical validation, I think that's when we'll see the adoption we need to get into retail pharmacies and really scale the company.
That makes sense. And how seamless is that training process for the patient? Do you see any challenge with them?
No, it's like the new iPhone. That's what I've always said. But like you get your device, you scan your finger, scan it again, and then you're the authorized user, and that's it. It's super seamless. It's my mom did it, and she didn't screw it up, and that was awesome. So love my mom. Not trying to give her grief, but she was my kind of barrier to entry test case.
Got it. Thanks.
Thank you, Irene. Karina, would you like to continue?
Yeah, thank you very much. Thank you also for the pitch. And how does the data that's collected from the bottle cycle back to the physician? So do you have like a software that's integrated into their existing system, or how do they get to the data?
So it depends on who that physician is. As long as they are operating on Epic servers, then we'll be all set to push our data through the EHR and have them get their alerts and reminders on their physician portal. Patients can access the information in really whatever way is easiest for them. Some hospital systems we've talked to have a mobile application patients are onboarded to, and we can push data through the application. Some hospital systems don't have an application, in which case they can use our application or they can go to an online portal. So there's a lot of different ways we can push data. It's really just about what's the cost and timeline of integration and what does that hospital system want to see from us. Most of the time we hear that they want to do a small pilot program and that we'll use our online portal. And then if that pilot program is successful, then we'd integrate into their EHR and push data through their system.
Yeah, thank you, Karina. Anne, please.
Yes, Alexander, I've been working in this field for 30 years, and this has been a very difficult field. It's a very clear need. There's no issue there. So I could see for Opio the extra steps of having the fingerprint, but then how do you do the refill? Do you have to go back to the pharmacy or a caregiver or somebody you trust can put it back in there? And then the $100 per month, I think, is what you were shooting for. Who do you expect to pay for that? And what's the value proposition for them?
Yeah, absolutely. So in terms of reusability of the device and how that's going to come together, the device will be either returned via a prepaid mailing package, which has worked really, really well for us so far, or there will be an incentive to return the device to your pharmacy. Now, to be more upfront about this, and I would say we have some expectation of a failure rate here between 30 and 40% of devices never being returned. And that's just something we're working into our financial forecast right now to see if we can deal with that kind of loss of devices as prescriptions go out. For your question on the revenue model and how that comes together, our focus is on remote therapeutic monitoring reimbursements, where the reimbursement is the value to our customer. Our customer will be a hospital system, and that hospital system will be able to bill for reimbursements. And that really brings me to another reason why we're choosing our beachhead market of young adult mental health patients. Hospital outpatient departments for young adults garner reimbursement roughly 3.5 times the average reimbursement for RTMs. It comes out to about $188 per month per patient for the data we collect on their medication adherence. And they don't have any other medical devices or comorbidities typically, compared to an elderly market where we would almost be fighting for that reimbursement. If a patient has a medical device that's reporting, at-home data, we all fall into that same bucket of patient-reported data to a physician. And so I didn't want to deal with that, but that's where the $150 per patient per month comes in. It's a little bit less than what the hospital system is going to be making, and we charge a hospital system a licensing fee for the platform and the customer service we offer.
So just to be clear, the remote patient monitoring in the US, the physician charge for that, and they get $150. They're not going to give you $150 to you. At most, you get half of that.
So it's for remote therapeutic monitoring. They're going to get about
remember, remote therapeutic monitoring. I don't want to take up too much time, but Akili just basically shut down their whole division last week to try to get payment by the payers. Peer Therapeutics basically went bankrupt. There's codes, but there's no payment. So I would highly
there are-
recommend you get a bit creative there, because the payers are not willing to pay right now.
I totally agree with that. So that brings us to kind of our FDA regulatory pathway, and the strategy we have here is, I think Paratherapeutics failed because they relied so heavily on their patient-reported data. And in all transparency, I think patients just lie. So I think that's where we come in with the quantitative metrics of ensuring patient compliance, where patient really can't get around our system. And if they start to try and do something like I don't know, if they try and fool the system, that's the whole goal of our product, is to not allow them to fool the system. So I would say that. And then so far, our revenue model has been well received by the customers we're talking with. So I don't disagree that we may have to change from that 150 to something maybe lower, but until we really get pressed on that, I'm sticking with it.
Yeah, thank you, Anne. Do you have anything to add, or that's all right?
Oh yeah. I just saw that I was being timed out, so I was being quiet.
Yeah, no worries. We almost actually time zone is up. So Alexander, anything to add? We have just less than a minute.
No, but thank you for the questions. And I just say to Anne, absolutely, I agree with your topic of, payer buy-in is going to be critical for our company. And I think that's really our commercialization strategy, right? Is we need payer buy-in to support us in the long run, and making that happen is.
What I think you should try, because I've been involved with a lot of these smart pills, caps and all that stuff like that in the past, is that go after pharma first for clinical trials, where it's really important that if people are taking it, then you're measuring and all of that. They're willing to pay for that to get you some revenues there as you're working with the payers. But but the pharma market is not enough to justify a big company.
Yeah.
Okay.
So thank you, Anne. Thank you, Alexander. Great presentation. Good evening, or have a good day. The next company is Keto 365. Mikael will introduce the company. Mikael, are you there? Feel free to share your screen.
Yes, I'm here. So let's see. Right. Do you see my screen?
Yes.
Let's see if we can. And you don't see any menus in the way, do you?
No.
Yeah, great. Okay, so I was once an airline pilot, and when I was with my wife during this time in the hospital, when I witnessed her getting treatment with infusion therapy with multiple drugs due to her breast cancer, I was first very impressed by the nurse, but then I was a little bit worried, because I know that we as pilots make many mistakes each flight, but we are two in the cockpit, and we have checklists, and we have fail-safe systems. What I recognize, an underlying risk of mixing the drugs. My name is Mikael Törnblom. I'm the CEO and founder of Keto 365. And to see if this was a problem worth solving or not, I actually Googled online, who are educating nurses in Sweden? And that is how I found my first employee, Ada Virtala. She is not here today, but this is normally her slides. We know that 90% of the hospitalized patients received infusion treatment. We also know that 74% of the drugs given within infusion treatment should not be mixed. Either they are missing compatibility data, or we know that they can't be mixed. We also know that 26% of the infusion treatment, the drugs given in infusion treatments, are potentially life-threatening if they are mixed. We also know that 46% of the nurses have actually witnessed drug incompatibility to occur 3 to 10 times within a month. Also, we are addressing another problem. There are actually 7.3 million nurses in Europe that are exposed to hazardous drugs. Actually, there are 17 incremental spontaneous abortions of nurses who handle hazardous drugs, and 10,000 children are born with malformities of mothers who have been handling hazardous drugs, and 2,200 leukemia cases. I find this quite unfair. They are healthy nurses working to treat patients with cancer. So the solution is rondello. Rondello actually means something that is round and protecting, and O for oncology. What we do is that we actually separate the drug. So you can only give one drug connected to the drug inlet at one time, and we give flushing fluid in between. So we have the sequence flushing, drug, flushing, drug. This is our portfolio. We have 2 inlets, 4 inlets, and 6 inlet Rondello in transparent and UV. We are experts in manufacturing these in very high volumes. As we talked about before, cost of goods is really important. And that is why we're investing heavily in automation and large volume production of these components that we believe will become the new standard. In order to make adoption happen, we also bring forward final device EV set. So we can CE mark them and have them 510K certified, so we can actually answer all the possible questions that our customers may have, and also to push adoption, make adoption happen, so we can have these large volumes of sales of the components. If we look at the devices out there, we're actually going to convert from down to the left, where the devices today are used for incompatible drugs, but where it's totally up to the nurse to achieve this sequence correctly. Rondello is the first physical barrier, the first physical device to achieve the sequence of drug flushing, where it's impossible to have parallel flow of drugs. We look at the market, we know it's huge. 5.9 billion primary IV sets is sold globally. And we can divide them further down to chemotherapy related. But as we know, 74% of all drugs given infusion treatment should not be mixed. So thereby it could be used in many other areas as well. And we are a large company already, perhaps not by sales, but we have been existing quite some time now. We have actually 91 patents approved, not pending, but approved, covering 50% of the world in about 30 countries with 8 patent families. We're based in Sweden. We have just delivered our first sales to Brazil, to one of the largest IV sets manufacturer there for oncology, and we have also delivered to US, and we have distribution agreements with those. And also we have trademarked Rondello in key markets. Our team is great. And I am also not only a pilot, but I'm also a mechanical engineer with product development in the background. And Ida Virtala is the oncology specialist nurse. And then we have a great team of quality and R&D specialists. And then we also lately now have our CMO, CFO, and logistics and sales, everything needed to make this company really big and great. And we have a fantastic board members of renowned persons with focus on medtech and experienced board members. And also we have our patent lawyer, one of Europe's best attorney at law for patents. This is our new facility. This is our new home. We're moving in 1st of December. The production capability is 20 million Rondello per year. That is 1 per second from July next year. We're looking for 4 million euros, or actually we're looking for anything between 2 to up to 4 million euros, because we recently got the EIC Accelerated Blended Finance, who back us with 2 million euros if we can find another one to co-invest 2 million euros, or if someone would like to take the whole 4 million euros, they can do so. So please come and join us and aid nurse to do right. Thank you.
Thank you, Mikael. Great presentation. Masha, would you like to start with your comments?
Thank you very much for the presentation. What's the reason that you only start commercialization now, and what do you see or envision as the biggest challenges in your go-to-market?
Great question. Actually, I started this almost 10 years ago, and I did never intend to become medtech CEO. I was there by chance. But what really bothered me as a pilot is that I saw a problem that I had a solution on. And actually, I was thinking of giving it away. My wife's friend worked at the patent firm and said, you should patent this. So this is what I did. And a few months later, I actually licensed out my first patent portfolio to one of the largest companies in the world, B. Braun. So I had a great success. And I was really happy. And I got some also minimum royalty each year, and was flying as pilot and earning quite a lot of money. But it was so slow. These giant companies have their own agenda. So we actually mutually agreed that why not end the agreement, and then I should produce it myself, and they might become our customer instead. And I took that decision 4 years ago. And then also I took in the investment, and I also ended pilot flying. So now, since 3 years back, I'm full-time doing this. That's the reason why it took some time.
Yeah, thank you, Masha. Thank you for the answer, Mikael. Elena, do you have any question or comment?
Not for this one. We could go on to the next panelist.
Okay, thank you, Elena. Anne, Irene.
Yeah, so I've invested in a catheter company in the past, and what we learned the hard way is that to really, because these are very low cost items there that usually are bundled by the hospitals, the GPOs, the group purchase organization, you're being forced to do pilots. What is the savings or the end in the trials that you want to measure? Is this infection, complications? You know, it's very hard to do those type of trials.
Yeah, so what I think you should vouch for is the tremendous response we had, for instance, from B. Braun and other giant companies. There's no question out there at all that these types of products are needed to avoid drug incompatibility. However, it's very hard to measure because you read a lot of reports that the nurse comes back after half an hour when one bag should be empty, but it's still fluid left. And the infusion pump have not alarmed. So it has been drawing from somewhere else. Or you can actually read reports about another bag has increased in volume. All these types of errors is potentially drug incompatibility errors as well. So it is very hard to quantify it.
I mean, I just, not to interrupt you, I mean, there's no doubt there's a need and your product is cool. What I'm challenging you is that the hospitals in the US right now are losing so much money, and I assume it's the same in Europe after COVID, that if you basically are going to replace the part with something more expensive, you have to justify it. And it's not just saving 1 minute of a nurse time. That doesn't do anything. So you have to show that you decrease infection, complications and all of that. And for those specific cases, because I spent quite a bit of time in IVs, it's really hard to prove because I'm not reported. Your baseline isn't good enough. And you're going to have to do observations, which is very hard to do because the nurse changed behavior.
We are not making anything that is more expensive. We are price competitive and added.
Have you talked to CR Bard and people like that?
Yes. You mean the BD that bought Bard?
CR Bard, it's like they have a lot of this, Becton Dickinson will be another one. Yeah. Basically, people are into the tube business.
Yeah, so Bard was acquired by BD. So yes, we are in talks with them. Yes.
One other question: have you explored use cases beyond in hospital? I'm thinking around lab bench, chemical synthesis, yes, chemical testing.
Absolutely, Irene. This is so interesting space. Actually, one of our first customer, and you can see it live, is Cosina. Cosina has the largest components catalog online, 5,000 medical components, or actually any components could be used for anything. And they have increased their revenue from 0 to 50% of the total revenue on bioprocessing industry the latest 3-4 years. And here we have very much interest at the moment. But why are we focusing on oncology? Well, because it's there, it's all started. That's our expertise with our know-how. So we just see the potential lab or the potential bioprocessing industry to drug development as something extra. And we will cooperate, for instance, with Cosina to sell to that space too. But you are absolutely right. There's so much more to do.
Yeah, that's interesting. I used to be in chemical synthesis. I could totally see the application there.
So for sampling for bioreactor, we see a lot of companies who actually now integrating Rondello, actually building machines around Rondello. So we are more like a printer toner business idea towards that market.
Yeah, and you could probably ask a premium product price on that one, much higher.
Yeah, and I know I'm not going to disclose too much, but you can easily log in and then you can see the public numbers there. And for that space, it's 10 times what you can take for the normal hospitals, almost.
Yeah, great. Thank you, Mikael. Anything to add, Karina, from you?
I was actually going to ask like how much more like expensive is it? But you just answered it already that it's currently not more expensive. So.
Yeah, because you have very high valued drugs that you, for instance, going to take a sampling of, and you're very accurate to not contaminate your sampling results. And yeah, you can have a benchtop bioreactor, or you can have a large one, but everyone needs these small valves to have samples of. So it has a huge value there.
Okay, thanks.
Yeah, thanks so much. Mikael, do you have any final word? We have less than a minute, maybe 30 seconds or something.
Yeah, thank you.
Okay, thanks so much, Mikael. Great presentation.
Great, thanks.
Okay, let's move to the next presentation. The next company is OUI Medical. Adar, founder and CEO, will introduce the company. Adar, feel free to share your screen and go
Hello,
ahead.
everyone. Yes.
Hello.
So hope you can see my screen, right? Presentation.
Yes.
Hello, everyone, and thank you for providing this opportunity, and thank you for your time. I am introducing OUI Medical, our motto, transform endoscopy. Endoscopes are used to peek inside our body cavities, and within this century, they have transformed medical science. Approximately 250 million procedures are being performed every year. There are 10 major types of scopes. For example, a colonoscope for a colon and a cystoscope for a bladder. We are on a mission to develop a scope for abdominal cavity. The problem being, presently, surgery is required to peek inside the abdomen in the form of a diagnostic laparoscopy or a diagnostic laparotomy, which means we have to admit the patient to the hospital, shift him to the operation theater, and perform a surgery, which is painful, inconvenient, and may cost up to $50,000. So we have come up with world's first scope to peek inside the abdomen using local anesthesia. It's portable, single use, and it's cost effective. So we give local anesthesia on the abdominal wall, a tap block. We make a small nick. This is another version of the device. It has a camera and a light source at the tip and an optical port, and it's battery operated and it's completely disposable. We introduce this scope under vision. That is, we go layer by layer inside without injuring any internal organs. Once we're inside, we put some atmospheric air to make some space in the peritoneal cavity, and we introduce this device, and we can go inside and have a look inside the peritoneal cavity. So this is an ambulatory procedure, which means patient can walk in, get this procedure done, and walk out on the same day. It's performed under local anesthesia. It's painless, convenient, and costs only $3,000. One of the prime applications of this device is patients in ICU who are really sick, who cannot be transferred to the radiology, or we cannot take them up for surgery because it's unsafe to transport them. And some of the patients, the radiology is not conclusive. So in these patients, we can perform a scopy in the ICU, in the bedside. We can go inside, have a look inside, and come to a definitive diagnosis. So there is sufficient evidence available for this. There is a review article published, Bedside Laparoscopy as a Diagnostic Tool in Critically Ill Patients, by Dr. Daniel, performed in a general surgery department in a university hospital. They bought in a laparoscope and performed these scopies in an ICU, and they analyzed the data, and they concluded that it has definite role in diagnosis of trauma, sepsis, labs not being conclusive, and it helps in early diagnosis and surgical planning. It has other multiple and compelling applications in cancer care to identify peritoneal secondaries and to stage abdominal cancers, in women's health to identify ectopic pregnancies, endometriosis, emergency care, a blunt trauma abdomen, or military field hospitals. It has some exciting applications in perioperative care and some future applications as well. So there is a study again by Dr. Udwadia, peritoneoscopy for surgeons, 2,500 peritoneoscopies performed with a laparoscope under local anesthesia, and they support all the above claims. So the opportunity being, for a single organ like colon, approximately 60 million colonoscopies are performed every year. Abdomen has 10 major organs. We have multiple compelling applications. We intend to generate 1 million procedures, sell each device at $1,000, and generate $1 billion revenue in next 5 years. The total market size for endoscopies globally is around $40 billion. Market size for single specialty scope is approximately $4 billion, and market size for single specialty scopes in US is around $500 million. This market is growing at 8%. Looking at the competitive landscape, it's a novel device. There is no alternative for this device. We have a patent for this device. We have received our first examination report, and it's very positive. We are raising funds. We have already completed device development, and we have a market-ready device. We have completed all the testing required for FDA. We have performed some early cases, and we intend to apply through breakthrough device pathway. We have already identified a predicate for this device, and we intend to get to market by Q3. We intend to simultaneously apply for regulatory clearance in EU and Asia as well. We have a go-to-market and exit strategy. There are approximately 20 large OEMs in the market, some mid-cap, some large-cap, like Olympus, Ambu, Strauss, etc. We are a good strategic fit for them. I am Dr. Adarsh Patil. I'm a surgeon. I'm a minimal access surgeon with 15 years of experience with scopes. I'm a medical entrepreneur and inventor of the scope. My co-founder, Rishikesh, is an engineer with 30 years of medtech experience. And we have other team members from regulatory and legal and finance background. We intend to bring in a paradigm shift in endoscopy. We look forward for your support. Thank you.
Thanks so much, Adarsh. Anne, please start with your comment or question.
Yeah, can you explain to me, just by doing a local anesthesia on the skin there, how do you avoid the pain and what's normally high nociception when you do these products there, and so that you don't have real pain for the patient in the cavity, as you're blowing up the cavity there? And the second question is that what's the enabling technology? What makes you unique to be able to do that so that Olympus and some of the other players can do that?
So there are two. One scenario is in ICU, we would not need a local anesthetic because the patient is already on ventilator. And the local anesthetic, the block, we use a transversus abdominis plane block. So with this block, the pain can be managed. So we have done.
It's an epidural. You're talking an epidural.
Not an epidural. It's given on the abdominal wall. It's a block given on the abdominal wall. It blocks the nerves on the abdominal wall. So that way the pain is not there. And we have already performed some of the cases, and we have assessed the patient comfort, and they were quite comfortable with the procedure. Secondly, with your question about insufflating and patient having pain, well, there are procedures we perform in surgery, like we put air in the abdomen and expand the air, and then some large hernias we repair. So it's an accepted norm. So it is possible to put in air and expand and create a pneumoperitoneum in a patient under local anesthesia.
And what's the unique technology that could not be copied by Olympus and all those guys?
Well, we have miniaturized the device, one, and use of atmospheric air to create a pneumoperitoneum is something intuitive, and it's a frugal innovation. So that has helped us to get this patent, and so we have a patent. So that.
So you don't use CO2; you just use normal air from the room.
Yeah, normal air from the room. Yes.
And maybe I'm missing why that's a breakthrough.
Well, if you really want to do a procedure in an ICU, you will have to bring the entire laparoscopic set to the ICU. So that includes a large CO2 chamber, which is a very big chamber. So we are avoiding that, and it makes it the entire device is disposable, including the port and the balloon. So you just use this and dispose the whole device. On this screen is reused. The entire device is disposable, single use.
Yeah, thank you. And Adarsh, Karina, anything to add?
Yes, thank you very much. It sounds very magic. Can you maybe elaborate a bit, or do you have like already the numbers on how accurate it is compared to the traditional methods? That would be
so the procedure itself is not new. So people have been examining abdomen under local anesthesia for long. There is enough evidence for that. So the procedure examining abdomen under local anesthesia has certain benefits. So that has been established. However, the approach is new. So earlier, still we had to take the patients to an to an OR because the laparoscopic set was in OR. So we couldn't bring the laparoscope set outside a OR or in an ICU or in a physician's office. So this device enables us to perform that examination in an ICU or in a physician's office. So that makes it more acceptable, and that will help accelerate the acceptance of this procedure. So as such, the benefits of procedure have been documented, and there is enough evidence available for that.
And second question was like, how are you distributing it now? Like, what's your sales strategy?
We haven't yet gone through our FDA. So once we get through our FDA, one is to directly market ourselves, or basically this is a disposable scope, and it can be attached to any of the present displays that other companies sell. For example, Boston Scientific has sold a bronchoscope in an hospital. So you will have to just buy this scope and attach to that screen. So it would be much easier for them to distribute. So we would look at partnering with them and distribute the device in the future as well.
Thanks.
Thank you.
Thank you, Karina. Anyone else from the panel? Masha and Irene.
I wanted to ask about your competitive landscape. Are there similar devices on the market?
No, this is the only device, and we have a patent for it. We have applied for a patent for it. So our competing device is a laparoscope.
I'm just not very familiar with the market. So with all aspects of the device, so using standard compressed or standard air from the room rather than CO2, are there like bedside laparoscopy devices that use CO2 that you would be in indirect competition with?
Well, again, the laparoscope itself is a very large device. It's about 7-8 feet tall, and it has a very high upfront cost of $60,000, and it has annual maintenance. So it is impractical to keep a laparoscope in a doctor's office just to do an abdominal examination, or bring a laparoscope to an ICU because there is a constraint of space, or the laparoscope is busy in the OR and it's not available at the critical moment that we need it. So that makes it very difficult to use the laparoscope for this particular procedure. For example, you want to use it in a military field hospital. So it's a device, and you can take it and use it there.
Yeah. Thank you, Adarsh. We are actually
Question: is there a risk of infection from room air? I mean, I would be worried that a hospital air is not very clean.
No,
I need very short answer for that, Adarsh. Maybe just
so atmospheric air doesn't have any pathogens, and so it doesn't cause any disease, and it is used in other surgical procedures as well. So there is no risk involved in it, and there is sufficient evidence available for that.
Okay, thanks so much, Adarsh. Great presentation. Okay, now we will be moving to the final presentation, Lumetry Diagnostics. We will be closing just before 2 p.m. 6 p.m. European time, 2 p.m. ET. So it's the final page. Antonia will do the present opportunity.
Perfect. Thank you so much. Just let me know if you can actually see my slides or...
Yes, we do.
Perfect. Wonderful. Hello, everyone. My name is Antonia, and I'm really excited to present Lumetry Diagnostics to you today. Our goal is that by 2035, every household has actually access to Lumetry, as we have the goal to improve the quality of life of millions of lung disease patients from the comfort of their home. Now, of course, we want to look at multiple diseases, asthma, pneumonia, long COVID, and much, much more. However, at the beginning, we plan to focus on COPD, chronic obstructive pulmonary disease, which has become the third leading cause of death in 2021, according to the World Heritage Organization. COPD is a dramatic economic burden, costing the EU before COVID already 38 billion euros a year. Sadly, there is no cure. And what happens for the patients is that they have the problem that within their lungs, they're getting inflamed and thickened. And one consequence is that the CO2 in their blood and the O2 in the air, they're unable to exchange it properly in many cases. And a consequence thereof is something called a CO2 toxicity. The doctors of you probably know it under hypercapnia. And sadly, the first symptoms of hypercapnia are often not recognized. It's headaches, being tired, and later only feeling a sensation of drowning. Sadly, if you don't treat it on time, patients end up in a coma or worse, even die. Now, what's the problem with this? The only way to monitor CO2 in the blood of a patient suffering from COPD at the moment is blood gas analysis. And of course, you cannot do this on a regular basis. That would simply not, the hospital system or the doctors will not withhold having all the COPD patients coming in so often to control this. And this is exactly where we come in with our AI-based breath gas analysis. We are planning to monitor the CO2 from the comfort of your home in the first step, finally giving patients back control. But we are not stopping there. We will also go into the diagnostics, improving diagnostic decisions. And later on, we also want to help in therapy procedures, in drug use, etc., so that the patients have individual drug use at home. Now, this all sounds great, of course, but how does it work? Again, what we're using is a hardware-enabled breath gas analysis, even though the key is our AI. And all the patients have to do is breathe in and out of our device. And this is very important, calmly. There are no masks. There are no tremendous tubes there. And they also don't have to get into a forced situation of breathing out forcefully. And they get immediate results, also already after 60 seconds of naturally breathing in and out. Now, as I mentioned, the key behind this is really our artificial intelligence, because with each data set, we're getting more smart ourselves, and it also allows us for multiple applications, some of which we might not even know today. But don't trust me, we are in corporations that confirm our hypothesis with many experts and clinics across the DACH region, in Germany, like Heidelberg, Switzerland, like the St. Gallen University, and of course also in Austria. But besides the clinical tests, it's also important that we have almost 150 preclinical data sets, and we are in the midst of our clinical pilot studies with almost 200 COPD patients. But again, it's also important, as we want to go into the home marketing, to get the feedback from the customers, which is why we are actually working constantly with COPD Austria, which is the largest self-help group of Austria for COPD. So how will we go to market? Yes, and I agree, all doctors are necessary to treat and therapy with COPD patients. However, the sales cycle working with doctors is very, very long. And this is why we're having both a B2B2C with doctors, of course, and other distribution partners, as well as a B2C model. Now we have two different options. One is a subscription model to allow more patients to get access to our solutions, which of course is our end goal, as well as a one-off payment option. And again, we love tests in our team, so we've done multiple usability studies and so-called pre-mock sales, both in the DACH region and in the US. The market is large. I believe you've heard this already before in a different pitch deck. So what's important for us with the third leading cause of death, it's of course no surprise that many patients are there suffering from the disease and are potential customers. With our first step, we believe that we will have about 2 million users per year. With the second, this will double, and we can reach about 900 million in revenue per year. The competitive landscape is quite large, however, and this is important. There is no other solution than the invasive blood gas analysis that we are replacing that at the moment can detect hypercapnia and help monitor it. Of course, in our later steps, when we go into general exacerbation, COPD diagnostics, there are multiple other solutions. You probably have already heard multiple spirometers, flow meters that you've seen out there. However, and again, I have to underline it, when it comes to hypercapnia, we are really a unique solution, and I believe this is also the reason so many hospitals are willing to cooperate with us and are interested in making studies together with us. We also think we have a low-risk tech investment. Now, why is this? The base of our hardware has already been used by multiple patients in the home care market. We have international supply chain partners and experience in logistics and international storage units. And this is simply because we've done it all before. I've met my co-founder, Christian, who is the expert when it comes to the R&D in a previous startup called BeCareLink. Please feel free to Google it, and where we have successfully brought a medtech device to market already. But we highly depend, of course, on the experience from our team. We have biomedical engineers, data experts, statistic experts, software developers, and of course, and she's not yet on the slide because she's only starting next week, we're also having a regulatory affair manager that's coming to us. However, in addition to her, we have one of our investors that's important to know, is an auditor and has been of great help within our regulatory pathway. Finally, of course, we also have a medical device board. We have Dr. Kira O'Dwyer. She is a medical advisor at Pfizer from Ireland. We have Dr. Marvi Schellenberg from Heidelberg University. We have Dr. Horst Rütter, who used to be the head of technology innovation at Roche Diagnostics. And finally, we, of course, also have Dr. Arshang Balipur, who is the director of Department for Internal Medicine at the Floridsdorf Clinic here in Vienna. So how far are we? Of course, we still have a couple of milestones to achieve. We are currently finalizing our clinical report for the clinical pilot study. Our medical device will be serial ready by end of this year, so we can start our final conformity study at the beginning of next year, and we'll then have an appointment at the notified body. We are ready in negotiations for the date with the notified bodies. However, now you wonder, why do I write Q4 24/Q1 25 for the market entrance? This is simply because we are depending on the positive review from the notified body. And in case there are some additional requests from the notified body, we just have to guess that it will take between 3 to 6 months as minimum until we actually can officially go to market after going through the notified body. I have, of course, additional slides, but I think my time is up. So I will thank you with this, and I'm open to all the questions.
Absolutely. Thank you. Great presentation, Antonia. Masha, would you like to start? Now, if you can unmute yourself.
Perfect. Thank you. Thanks for the great pitch, Antonia. I actually spoke to one of your co-founders, Ben, I think it was, when you were still working on BeCareLink.
Oh, really? Nice.
I can tell that there are a lot of similarities when it comes to the actual device, but then obviously the use case is fundamentally different. So what were your key challenges when looking at the cycle tracking use case, and what is different now? Why do you believe that it will work with COPD?
Yes, so we are actually a spin-off of BeCareLink in that sense. Just maybe to differentiate, I have the device here. I'm not sure if you can see it. It's unfortunate. Well, fortunately, the IP is not the same anymore, but we are using the same plastics around us. It helps us a lot, and it saves a lot of money, as we're in a really good term with them. From the cycle experience, what was particularly difficult back then was that you have to think that there were multiple options available in the fertility market to track your cycle. And I think the competition was one of the hardest, is one of the hardest things that they're facing. But multiple women have different opinions on what's the best way to track their cycle. On my, like now, how did we get to Lumetry? Actually, I was the manager for business. I was in business development and later also supply chain management. And so my work was also, what else can we do with the experience in BRAF gas analysis? And we were approached by multiple doctors, like asking us, can't you help us with this, with your experience? And then I approached Christian, my co-founder. We went to the investors behind the previous startup. We told them our pitch. We said what we want to do. They loved it and said, okay, guys, if you want to do your own startup, go for it. We will support you for the first couple of rounds.
Thank you.
Great. Thank you, Masha. Anne, any question or comment? Okay, now
here we go. Now it works. Yeah. So I don't understand how it works. Are you like an untitled CO2 in an uncontrolled airflow? I mean, you know, how do you control the measurement of the CO2?
So basically what you have in there, you have a CO2 sensor, as well as a couple of other sensors, but they're not as crucial. And what you do is when you breathe in and out, you produce a CO2 breathing curve. You might know it from capnography.
Oh, no, I'm very familiar in anesthesia. They have entitled CO2, but it's a control environment and there's a certain curve and you only make the measurement at the top of the peak. But that's under a ventilator. You know, in your case, it's just room environment there. So I don't understand how you have something that's accurate.
Actually, it's not as, it sounds much harder than it is. We have the experience from this previous startup where it was the same concept, natural breathing. So the importance is that you get the patient to breathe naturally. And then what we're using, it's the 60 seconds is quite important. Why is this? Because over the 60 seconds, the first couple of breathing curves, as you can imagine, are, I would almost say, useless. It's exactly because, as you said, how do you get the patient to get a constant breathing curve? And they start becoming more constant after, I would say, the 4th or 5th breathing cycle in that sense. And this is exactly what we look at. We compare it then with the AI, with other measurements and correct it. So even if the patient, for instance, has 1 or 2 curves that are out of line because, you know, he might have swallowed, he might have gotten a bit nervous, then we can correct it. If it's multiple curves that are out of line, you can simply ask them to repeat it.
And what's the hypothesis? Oh, no, I got it. I know we're short in time, so I'm trying to give time for your people. So assuming they do this every day, how many days can you predict an exacerbation? Because there's data for heart rate, there's data for nitrous oxide being really here by so can you explain that? Can you hear me?
Yeah, there's an echo. I don't know why. Maybe Antonio, you can just mute yourself for a second. Okay, Anna,
yes,
could you
let me
please
repeat the question. So there's data showing that you can predict 4 to 5 days ahead of time based on heart rate and nitrous oxide there. Do you have data for entitled CO2 that you could predict an exacerbation, you can act upon it?
Antonio, did you understand the question? Or should we repeat it? Okay, and maybe just one more time. Antonio, just stay muted for a while now. But when Anne finish the question, you can unmute yourself and answer the question.
So the key is to show you can predict exacerbation 3 to 5 days ahead of time, which people have done at the University of London for heart rate and pulse ox. They've also done with nitrous oxide. Do you have any data that entitled CO2, assuming people take it every day, could predict an exacerbation also 3 to 5 days ahead of time so you can avoid it? Can people hear me? Am I?
Yeah, I hear you. Did you hear Antonio? No, cannot. Maybe try to speak now. You're not on mute. Okay, let me see.
Now I don't know what you've done, but I believe I hear you now. Hello?
Okay, perfect. Should we repeat one more time, Anne? Or...
I'm so sorry, I didn't hear anything.
Okay, it was a $5 million donation, makes God know. So basically, there is clear data showing that you can predict an exacerbation for COPD with heart rate pulse ox combined from University of London, as well as nitrous oxide. Do you have any data that if your patient use this every day, which is a question mark, that you could predict 3 to 5 days ahead of time with CO2 with your device, so you can act upon it and avoid exacerbation?
So with hypercapnia, yes, because you can see the CO2 increasing, and we can actually see that how they increase. With a general exacerbation, we are actually looking at the partnership to test exactly what you're saying, but this will be a multiple month, like almost a year-long study. Why is this? To do this study, what we will use patients that are currently in ICUs and then relieved from ICUs, because there is a chance of about 30% that within the next 3 to 6 months they have an exacerbation. So these are the patients that we would like to test, and then also see if we can predict a general exacerbation. So this will be step 3 in our approach. Why step 3? And I guess you can guess this. It's because it's one of the most expensive studies, and it will also take a while to do so. While with hypercapnia, as we are really getting really close to the CO2 in the blood with the breath, we can actually predict the exacerbation in the sense of the hypercapnia, the acute hypercapnia, or in advance, so that the patient, instead of going to the hospital, can go to his physician in the countryside or a pulmonologist to adapt their therapy, which in their case is usually oxygen therapy, and then you can see how it works. Interestingly enough, just to add this, where we were scared is that if they use oxygen, that it may influence the results, but it doesn't. So we're actually seeing that even patients with oxygen can use Lumetry, of course, unless they're constantly on a tube or a mask.
Okay, thank you, great, Antonio. Elena, Karina, anything to add? Any comments, feedback, maybe question?
Just out of curiosity, I saw Oipnos as well on your competition slide. So what they do is like audio biomarker. So you also kind of breathe into your phone, so you don't need a hardware device. What's the difference here? So can they only like predict, that you have COPD or asthma, or can they also work towards, predicting exacerbation, or like what's the difference in technology here?
And Antonia, let's take the a small short answer for that and to finish the conference.
So it wasn't on my pitch deck, but I will still answer it. I would assume what they're doing is they're measuring the cough, the sounds of the change of cough, and I would assume what they're doing is then to try realize if there's any change in this. If they can accurately predict exacerbation, I don't think so. Diagnostics sounds a bit more likely, because it's very similar to what you do when you have I don't know if it's called in English, a stethoscope, where you measure the coughing at the doctors, if you might hear it, and this can also give you some insights on disease and disease differentiation. So I would assume that's what they're doing. Just a wild guess now. Okay, thanks.
Yeah. Thank you, Antonio. Great presentation. Yeah, now, okay, thanks so much for staying with us until the end of the event. And really special thanks all the judges for the contribution. And Masha, Karina, Elena, I see Irene just left. Thanks so much for the contribution. We will follow up with everyone with one more info about the companies, and we will be potentially having another HealthTech Investment Conference early next year. So stay tuned with the updates. Thanks so much, everyone, and have a great evening or have a great day where you live.
Thank you. Bye.
Bye. Thank you. Bye.
Thank you. Bye. Thank you so much. Bye.
Thank you. Thank you, everyone.